3 years since we left the European Union. I talked about the joyous scenes in Parliament Square, my disappointment that not enough of that has been delivered. But one part of the country, that wasn't really celebrating very much on that particular evening was, of course, Northern Ireland, who felt they'd been ditched, who felt they'd been betrayed, who felt Boris Johnson, frankly, hadn't told them the truth. Member of Parliament Ian Paisley joins me. You were, a passionate Brexiteer, but that wasn't a big night for you, was it?
No, it was covered with disappointment because Northern Ireland was set to the side. We got the deal which everyone else didn't want in the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom got free from the shackles of Europe. And unfortunately, that has had a debilitating effect on our economy and has had a debilitating effect on the ability to do trade within the UK. It's not right that there's checks and goods from GB to Northern Ireland or vice versa. That's just wrong.
I mean, literally a border in the Irish Sea, and that's what's been created. And some of the rules and regulations, I heard the other day that shipments going from Stranraer to Northern Ireland, the pallets have to be deep cleansed, a rule that applies to importing bananas from countries that have got tarantulas. I mean, these barriers are real, aren't they?
They are absolutely real, and they're an impediment to our economic success, and we need economic success. And of course, a lot of it is insulting. I mean, you mentioned the pallets. If you try to import flowers or plants from GB to Northern Ireland, they say it's contaminated with British soil.
Yeah.
Now, that's insulting.
Yeah.
And that's just not right. I mean, I went through the checklist. If you were to send me something from your company to Northern Ireland, you would have to do about 15 different checklists to get it to me. That's going to persuade you to do your trade elsewhere.
Yeah, it makes it too difficult.
It's just not right.
But, Ian, the whole premise from Monsieur Barnier from the very beginning, and I watched Sinn Féin going in and out of his office, he was very close to them all the way through, was that the Good Friday Agreement had to be protected and that the imposition of a hard border in Northern Ireland would break it.
They've done the opposite. They've undermined the Belfast Agreement. They've made the institutions of which are from the Belfast Agreement ungovernable.
Sorry to interrupt you,
Yes,
but
sure.
Just explain. How have they undermined, in your view, the Belfast Agreement?
Well, you have to have something in Northern Ireland called consensus. We have 2 tribes, essentially, maybe 2.5 tribes. And there must be consensus between those tribes to govern Northern Ireland. And when one side is upset, the process doesn't work. And we have unionists, the entire body of the unionist politic, upset and said we're disadvantaged in trade, we're upset about the constitutional position that we're now in, and we want this to change. And that has destabilised the political operation in Northern Ireland and has led to the collapse of the Assembly. You can't have protocol and power sharing. The government, Europe, if they want the Belfast Agreement, take away the protocol, fix that problem, and then you will restore power sharing.
Now, on the protocol, and I think by now we all understand the deep upset of unionists, as I say, a border within your own country for goods is clearly unacceptable to that community in its entirety. And I'm quite sure there are plenty on the Catholic side of the argument to try to do business who are also deeply frustrated. Of
course. And business people just want to do business. They don't want this political thing hanging over them. You know, it's the businesses don't trade as identities. They trade as commodities, as you will know, as a commodity trader yourself. But we've got to get on with that. But the thing that really annoys me the most is I'm stopping the street and people say, "Oh, but you guys have the best of both worlds, don't you?" Can I say this? If we had the best of both worlds, I'd be out there campaigning for this and saying this is brilliant for Northern Ireland. I care about Northern Ireland businesses. I want them to be successful, but I'm not going to tell them a lie and say this is wonderful for you when it is not wonderful. But if it was wonderful, I'd be prepared to sell it.
But there may be some good news. You see, the delightful Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, she has talked about constructive talks, and the mood music coming out of the UK government is similar. Now, the Times have really charged ahead with this, and they are suggesting that part of the compromise would be that there would be, for goods going from the mainland into Northern Ireland, there'd be a red channel, and that's for goods that would then be transshipped into the Republic or elsewhere, and a green lane for products that go straight into Northern Ireland. Is that feasible?
Well, first of all, the traders in GB would still have to do all of the same checks on the computer and still have to go through all of the rigmarole to put it into the green channel. It's not the restoration of business as was in 2019-2020. It is still having those checks.
But the idea is that the green channel would mean fewer checks.
Yes, but excuse me, fewer checks means dropping it from maybe 15 to 12 checks. When there should be no checks on goods coming from GB to another. Would you like to have checks going from London to, say, Derby? No, that would be unacceptable. Well, it's unacceptable to send them from Derby, have checks from Derby to Northern Ireland.
So this doesn't suit. And there's going to be a compromise on the European Court of Justice.
I think that's what I call a kite flight.
Okay.
That's an attempt by some officials to say, can we bounce people into something, thinking they're going to get something really positive? I would like to see
the argument is that the ECJ, the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg, would only intervene if courts in Northern Ireland referred the cases to them.
Well, I understand there was significant pushback from Europe today on that, and that they were very perplexed that they'd been cast in a frame that they had compromised on the sovereignty of Europe. Well, the sovereignty of Northern Ireland, they've been prepared to walk all over that, and the sovereignty of the UK's rights in Northern Ireland have been walked over. And I think that Europe, if they want this to work, they've got to sit down and either craft a proper deal with the United Kingdom government on this, or the British government has got to stand up and put in place its own protocol bill, which you and me both know is in a drawer somewhere at the bottom of Parliament. It needs to be pulled out and put back on the table.
If this doesn't work, and it's not acceptable to the unionist community, and I have to say, chatting with you briefly, thinking it through, it doesn't sound very acceptable at all. How do we have normality with a part of the United Kingdom in terms of the trade of goods without a hard border on the island of Ireland?
Well, we need the European community to recognise that Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. That as part of the United Kingdom, we therefore do not have to do their job in our territory. The United Kingdom left the EU. Now, if the European Union doesn't trust the Republic of Ireland to guard its own borders, then they have to find some other way of protecting themselves. But I would have thought that we could be able, after years of good membership, trust each other as good neighbours.
Yes, and the idea that we would sell inferior goods from Northern Ireland.
Well, the issue is
Republic.
about smuggling, really. You know, Europe says, oh, you might smuggle the wrong goods into the EU. The EU territory, the Republic of Ireland, might smuggle the wrong goods into the United Kingdom. This is about mutually watching each other and mutually assuring each other's position. That's what really should be done as mature nations.
Well, you know what? Before all of this, on either side of a field, there could be the Republic on one side, Northern Ireland on the other, different tax rates, different excise duties, different corporation tax, different currency, and life went on pretty well, didn't it?
It went on very, very well, and people accepted that. But of course, the moment now what happens if you send me goods to Northern Ireland and you send it through the Republic of Ireland, not only do I have to pay my VAT in the United Kingdom, I then get one of these, Nigel, a bill from the Republic of Ireland charging me VAT in the European Union.
Yeah, it's crackers.
This is not working.
Well,
please fix it.
They're trying to get some sort of compromise before the anniversary of the Belfast Agreement. I think they're going to struggle. Ian Paisley, thank you very much.